Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the September 3rd meeting of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. I'm President Doug Saltzgaver. I'm happy to be back here for how many weeks now in a row? 6. Very good. Someone's counting. Here at the Wakanda Club with those of you here live and in person, and those of you watching live on YouTube. Welcome to all of you. And thanks for the 3 Invictus crew members for filming our meeting again today. We do ask that you keep your masks on when not eating or drinking or speaking up here at the podium. We had nobody sign up today for a moment of inspiration this week. You have one job to do, people. One. No greeters, no front desk duties, no tumblers. Just one job. All we need is one person a week. So if we don't start getting some volunteers, I'm going to start selecting some volunteers. I'm not afraid to do that. So if you would, please sign up online or let Kitty know you're willing and interested to give us some inspiration. So instead of inspiration today, we're going to focus on an inspirational member of our club, Congressman Neil Smith. Our club had nominated Neil for the Rotary District Guardian of Integrity Award that was to be awarded at the District Festival in June at the Prairie Meadows Events Center, which we're not able to hold live. This award is given to a nominated Rotarian in recognition of outstanding contributions that foster the development of Rotary's core value of integrity and ethical practices as exemplified by past District Governor Judge Paul E. Helwegi. Now, past President Don Flannery called and spoke to Neil to let him know of this honor, and the official certificate was delivered to him by our own Steve Moraine to the Scottish Rite. The PowerPoint slide that you now see is actually a recent photo in someone's yard. Past President Don Flannery spotted this in a neighborhood recently. Looks like others would like to bring back Neil Smith's integrity into politics. Now, if all of you would please stand and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance and then the 4-way test. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the 4-way test. Can anybody do it with vigor? Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? All right, now everyone wave at your fellow Rotarians since we can't shake hands. Oh, come on, put some effort into it. You're not royalty, you don't do one of these. All right. Our Rotary Club of Des Moines board member, Kevin Kassir, will now introduce our keynote speaker today, but first, remember, for any questions for the speaker, there's a microphone stand over by the hallway. Kitty will sanitize it the best she can between questions. Please, again, do not shout out your questions from your seat. We want those watching by live stream to be able to hear you. So with that, I am going to actually remember to sanitize the microphone, and then Kevin can take over.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see you all here, and welcome those who are watching on YouTube. Skeet, I kind of feel like you a little bit. I walked up here, not one clapped, so starting to feel like Skeet Wooten up here. Good to kind of be welcomed in the Skeet Wooten way. What's that? I didn't say that, Skeet. So For those of you listening or watching online, he says, I'm too tall. I get the pleasure, great pleasure, of introducing Jeff Bruning, but you all probably know him as Bruno. Those of us living in Des Moines probably have heard him many times on KXNO talking about one of my favorite topics, beer. I got connected with Bruno, and a quick story before I go down his very interesting background. A good friend of mine at work said, I'm going to get into the restaurant business. And I said, oh boy, that's tough business. I said, where's the restaurant at? He said, Orilla, Iowa. And I said, where is Orilla, Iowa? And I'm going, oh no, this is not going to be good. And then he says, yeah, we came up with the name of the restaurant. It's going to be The Chicken. And I'm going, The Chicken? That's the name of the... So I'm not thinking this is going so well. And then he tells me, then finally it comes out that who his partners were. And then I'm like, how do I get in? A lot of success behind what Bruno's done over the years. So very interesting background. He's actually started in the business as a dishwasher at 15 years old. In the midst of all this, he's had all types of jobs: furniture salesman, event coordinator, shoe salesperson, insurance salesperson, furniture mover, media manager, insurance associate, and many others. He took the position of a server in 1998 at one of my favorite places, Buzzard Billy's. From there, he worked his way up to general manager. It didn't take him long. In 2000, he was general manager of Buzzard Billy's. And from there, he founded Full Court Press and opened up the Royal Mile on December 15th, 2001. Since then, he's opened up 24 places, sold 6, currently operating 18. You might know many of them beyond that I've mentioned, like El Bait Shops, Funk Pizza, Helston House, the library, some of his newer places, Lucky Horse, and Rita's Cantina, and I could keep going. He's done a tremendous job of making Des Moines the great place that it is to live by bringing us great places to go and get entertained and fed well. He lives in Des Moines, was born in Carroll, Iowa, graduated from Central College, married with 2 daughters. Please help me welcome to Rotary, Bruno.
Hello, everyone. Wanted to add, he's kind of telling most of my story, so I'm going to not have enough to say here, right? And I did say that I'd like to have more questions than me to stand up here and blab away. But I'll share with you one other thing that my wife didn't know today, and I shared with her. I worked at the tennis gallery at Seven Flags when it was a tennis gallery. Now it's an event center. And I got to meet some people, and one of them was a businessman, Ted. I can't remember his last name. He was from Japan. He just had come to town to work at Bridgestone. And they hired me to teach conversational English to some of the executives they had brought over from Japan. So that was kind of an interesting thing too. At one time I held like 5 or 6 jobs. I was talking to my wife this morning too. I lived in 9 different places in the first years I lived here in town. I moved here 2 weeks before the flood. If you don't know that, then you must be younger than 30. So that's how long I've been here, and I had all those, and I had a lot of jobs. And then I just was talking to her too that in the last, since I've known her, almost 19 years. In the last 20 years, I've only done one thing. And she's like, well, you've done a whole lot of things. And I said, well, that is true, but it's been the same thing. And when somebody asked me, and you had asked me, how do you keep it all straight and how do you do it? That's a great question. I don't know either. I really don't. I don't know how I've gotten here, and I don't know how this could be that I could talk to you about what I have done. I don't think much of it. It's just what I do. But I do know that a lot of people enjoy it and like it and appreciate what we have done. But it's not me. I talk about who I work with, not who works for me. And it's been fun. Got to meet cool people in my life. Erica is one of them. She was one of the early people in my life in the restaurant industry at the Royal Mile, which I do have 18 places right now, and I had written down 15, and he said 18, so I wrote 18, and I think that's correct. And I'm very honest with that. I don't sit around counting them, and I do. And I will tell you, I was in the office the other day, and our HR person, which we have an HR person now. Oh, no, I know. It's our marketing person. We have a marketing person. So those are the only two things beyond my partners and I. And she had a list of all our places. And I'm like, oh, you have a list. I should probably have a list too because I can't remember them. So we've had a lot of success. It's been a lot of fun. And I think part of the reason I'm here today, and I think, well, the mask will bear it out and everyone knows that talk a little bit about COVID and how it might have affected or has affected. I think everyone has a general idea how it has affected our lives and your lives, but especially specifically our lives at the restaurant industry. We have taken advantage of some of the programs that have come out. We've had some grants, and we've definitely done the payroll protection plan, which was pretty much a lifesaver. We are doing, as far as the business goes, we are doing pretty well, but I'll share with you one thing that my business partner, I can't get out of my head, and I always talk about it, but I think it's a very important thing. So there was a band in the 70s called the Gatlin Brothers. You may or may not know them. They're not as popular as the Statler Brothers, which you may or may not know them either. But there's a time in the 70s where every country band was kind of a crossover and became kind of a pop band, so a lot of people knew who they were. Well, Larry Gatlin was in our interview to talk about his career and what he had happened to him and thoughts and feelings. And towards the end of the interview, he talked about how he had become addicted to cocaine and how his brothers became alcoholics and how they had just been ruined, lost money. You know, the same story of every person that's ever been in a band, or it's a sort of cliche almost. They asked him, if you had a few things, that you would like to impart with everyone, wisdom, things that you know now that you wish you would have known then. And he said, I wish, first of all, that I would have never tried cocaine because that is the worst thing ever. It nearly ruined my life. It nearly killed me. Of course, that's obvious. But the second thing he said is, I wish somebody would have told me that the music business was 2 words. Because he got the music part down, but the business part nearly sank him. And I talk about that in the restaurant industry all the time. I think partially my success has been that I've been smart enough to partner with not one, but 2 engineers. Two of my business partners, one is a hydraulics engineer by schooling, and the other is a mechanical engineer by schooling. Went to school for that. The one brother was in the oil fields of Texas when his brother, who worked at Train Manufacturing on the floor as a VP, thought he might want to open a restaurant down in Waco, Texas. And that was sort of the genesis of how I'm standing here today. Like he said, I graduated from Central College. I never really knew what that would do. I guess basically it makes it so I could talk, because my degree was in general studies. And general studies was a thing where you could have 6 minors and it made a major. And I love that idea because I had friends that took all business classes and they were very focused on business. And I'm like, now looking back, I mean, everything's business. So that's sort of a thing you're going to have to get into, but you have to decide who you're going to work with and who you want to hire. And I took things like Mark Twain literature. I would tell you my secret to my studies at Central College was that in the fall, I wanted to get most of the classes I had done by about 3:00 in the afternoon. So that was a criteria. The second we had trimesters. The winter one, I didn't want to get up early, so I wanted to start somewhere afternoon. Like maybe 11 o'clock. And then the spring, I certainly wanted to get done early, so I'd be done for the day. And then whatever fit in that criteria, along with what interests me, and also filled my 6 minors. It was just really good rounded, and I feel like that's kind of prepared me for what I do. I'm very interested in a lot of different things. I've become very interested in beer. I think I've been Bruno since I was 4, but I think Bruno has really come to be something people know me by, because this is the voice you hear on the radio 3 times a week now. And I don't know how I fell into that, but I have a key to the building. One day I was like, "Hey, Joel, can I have a key to the building?" He's like, "Yeah, I don't see why not." And so I get to do radio, so that's a lot of fun. So that's a little bit more about me, and I tell you about Larry Gatlin and the business thing, and I kind of sidetrack myself, but that's the PPP. If I didn't have my business partners, I wouldn't be telling you about all the places I still have. I would have told you, I'd be telling you about the places we used to have. And it is run like a business. It's very much like a business, and business decisions are made all the time. We find niches and fill them. We don't just on a whim go, let's open another place because we can make a bunch of money at it, because that's never been our real priority. Well, I should say that's not my priority. That's one of my partner's priority. And again, that's why I'm standing here. He really gets into that. That's not my thing. I do what I've dubbed brute force accounting. If you have a pile of money, you can pay for almost anything and still have some money left over. I don't look at the details as much, but that's what my business partner's for. And a lot of my employees work that way. And they've been really good during this time, where they've just talking about an experience that they had going to the Iowa tap room and, wearing masks and gloves and carrying it out to the car and having separate pens and doing all the things to keep it safe. I couldn't have possibly thought of all those things. It's just there's too many details in what I do, and I couldn't possibly. The more I get into the details, the worse I've become as a manager of people, as an owner. So I've given that over to people that go to work every day. So that's been pretty lucky. I've been pretty lucky that way. And so to talk more specifically about, we were kind of set up for success during COVID. We've had, as of yesterday, 12 times in our company where we've had somebody call in and say, "I have COVID." So if you do the numbers with my new numbers of 18, not 15, that's 2/3 of our places. Seems scary. And the very first one at the Chicken was scary because we didn't know what we were going to do. We didn't know how we were going to do it. It turns out that those folks we did have multiple. They all lived together and or spent time together quite a bit. Now, we tested everyone there. We cleaned the place down. We shut it down for, a week. I wouldn't say overreacted at all. We reacted to the situation, unknown circumstances. You got to do what you got to do. I think we actually shut down for 10 days. I can't remember. Everything's a blur these days. Everything changes so much you can't possibly keep up. But as we've gone on, I will say one thing, and I made a start. One thing I want to make sure I say out loud to everyone here today is that through this all, the main thing we have decided, and we've always done, is that we're going to be honest and open with the public and our staff. We've never hidden anything. We don't do that. It doesn't make any sense. Everyone knows. You don't tell something, it gets worse and worse, and it could be devastating. It could completely wipe us out, and there's no point in it. I kind of like the stuff you guys have here. The very first thing here is what you do, and that's what we do too. In fact, I was going to ask, how can I become a member? So we'll talk about that later. So I would say just yesterday or the day before we had one, and I'm, HIPAA and hysteria and oh my gosh, I will tell you that we've decided at this point that we keep it. We know who worked with who, and we got to let them know. So we've gone from, we got to shut it completely down to, hey, who worked with who? How long have we done it? Because I will tell you, the 10 times in between the first and the last, we have found that it's the person that was, oh, I went to a family reunion. Oh, I went to a party bus. You know, these are kids and people who don't make all the best decisions in life. I mean, Erica, you and I were some of those people at one time. When you're younger, you're just doing things. We're seeing it bear out right now in the college towns in Iowa, which I don't believe. I mean, we have great colleges here in Des Moines, but we're not the same as Ames and Iowa City. But they're not always making the best choices. We had some people they were going to fly to Spain, and we had some people go to Florida, and so when they go, you go, okay, you can go, but you're 2 weeks before you can come back to work. But we found through this time that we haven't had, when we get everyone tested, we haven't found that anyone inside the business that works with these people 10, 20, sometimes 40 hours a week have turned around and also tested positive, which I mean, it's a small group, but fairly big. I mean, we have 750 employees in our company. It's a pretty good test group to find that we're finding that who knows how it happens, but what we also are finding is that the way we run our business, we have to be intentionally clean. We always have been. We send people to school before they mandated it from the state. We've sent people to learn how to. It's called Serve Safe, and we've had people on staff. Now they've mandated you have to have someone on staff, but we've always done that from management through the kitchen. So we kind of know what we need to do to make sure we have food safety, but then we also just know that we need to keep clean. And so, the three things you need: if you got a dirty parking lot or a dirty restroom, or the place is too cold or the music's too loud, those are already setting the tone if the food's any good or the service was any good, and you're playing catch up after that. So we've always done that. I also ramble a lot, so I'm starting to find that I was going to let you guys ask questions a lot, and now I'm talking too much, but I will run through my bullet points here. So I will say that some of the things, if you're not changing, you're dying. I would tell you that the thing that has happened more than anything you may have experienced it in your own lives is that I didn't know what Zoom was before this, and now I'm a Zoom expert. I would have never used third-party delivery services, and I will tell you it's not the preferred because we give over it and we hand it off to somebody, and then you get our food whenever they decide to get it to you and how they decided to get it to you. But we have used them, and it's worked pretty well. We started our own delivery. I did my first break-even analysis recently, so I'm even a reformed business person that's trying to learn a little bit more. We have outdoor services obviously become great. A friend of mine, Carl Voss, gave me a call one day early on, and he said he and Josh Mandelbaum were going to do this outdoor service program, and so I was kind of an early track insider on that they were working on getting that. And that's been pretty nice for us, especially at places like the library and Rita's Cantina. Some of the places we already had outdoor seating has worked out too. We're marketing in a different way. I'm usually one that's like, we're at capacity, and I'm like, okay, I'll see if I can get 50 more people in there. That we can't do that anymore, and that's kind of why I create this panic to get to our places. It's the opposite. Now people are panicked to not go to our places. So I want to lay any fears that I think we have it pretty under control. I feel it's pretty safe. I would go as far as to say we're just about as safe as anywhere else that you can go spend your time outside of locking yourself in your home and never coming out. And so I wanted to make sure we said that. And then also just we have the technology and the opportunities we've had and come to our way. I think the whole society has gone 5 to 10 years in advance. And things are moving really quickly. We've had to adjust our perspective, and how it's made me adjust my perspective. I turned 50 at the end of the last month. And I thought I would never want to sell my places or that I just going to have these forever. I always thought of our businesses as a horse that we would ride till it died, and then I'd walk away from it, and that's my retirement. And so I had to keep it going as long as I could to get to that journey's end. But now I'm starting to see that maybe I'm also advancing quickly to retirement quicker than I thought. I've been wanting to diversify the 18. That's what throws me off. I do own a share of a popular T-shirt company here in Des Moines. I own a brewery in my hometown of Carroll. I met with a couple guys yesterday about a distillery, and I'm also looking into forming a media company with a friend of mine that I'm on the radio with. So basically all the things that interest me, but a little bit different than being handcuffed to my business. We're also in the negotiation of talking about selling off some of the property we have, and the possibility of closure. And without, the cover of COVID, it's a thing that I think everyone here may have employed at some point in time to kind of sharpen the pencil a little bit and make your places work a little bit better. That's always a possibility. I'm open to it. It's not something I want to do. I think people really like what we do, and we try hard to make a good product. So now I'm rambling. So now I'm going to ask if anyone has any questions.
Thanks for coming and speaking to us today. I'm sure that everybody's impressed with the record that you've made for yourself. A thought that occurs to me is that you weren't always this multi-establishment owner company. What happened to this young college grad, when you went from one facility to 2 to 3 and on up, and depending on what day of the week you're talking, 18 or 15 or 23 right now, what had to change in your thinking and in your planning to accommodate those changes in your ownership and your own personal responsibility? And kind of an add-on to that, what goes into your overseeing this array of establishments now?
That's a really great question. To give some context to that, you mentioned Central College grad, and it's certainly not. I guess they just dropped the price because colleges are having a tough time too right now. But Central College is a very expensive college, not the most by any means, but back then it was quite expensive. But my dad, who drove for Allied Van Lines and moved furniture, and my mom, who drove school bus, we figured out a way for me to go there. But it was expensive, but you send your kid to college, you want a brighter future. He becomes a server at a restaurant, and you lose your mind and go, why the hell did I send you to college? And then are you going to stay doing that? Well, then you're like, okay, we're going to open a new place. Have you lost your mind? A brand new place. You're at my own place. And then you see it does. And then he's like, okay, we're going to open another one. And my dad says, well, isn't that going to cannibalize your current? I was like, I don't think so. I think people are going to really like the Hessen House. Well, turns out we sold 1,000 kegs of one company's beer in 3 months. I mean, it was insane. He's like, oh, maybe it's not such a bad idea. Then we opened the High Life, and we were selling 450 kegs of High Life in a month. After that, a while, he started asking me, you're going to run for mayor or something like that? Like it's starting to, it's seeing how popular we're becoming. So really, and one other thing, when people ask me, should I open a restaurant? I say absolutely, full stop, no. If you have the wherewithal and the presence of mind to ask somebody that question, you're not built for this, because you have to be completely delusional. You really do. You have to just not even believe what anyone wants to tell you or think to soak in what anyone wants to say. And I'll tell you, when you get to where I'm at, it's a surprising thing. But to answer your question really directly, the main part of your question is that what I've done to change is I've gotten out of the way. I am less involved than I ever have been. When you get down in the weeds and really like, okay, you can't price it this way, or you have to have this beer. I got to be in charge of the beer list because I'm Beers with Bruno. I got to be that guy. when you get out of the way, you realize you've taken a whole step. You made everyone's life easier. I do this thing. This is what I am. I'm our big PR guy. A long time ago, my business partner, Andy, well, he was always on TV, and he said, well, I can't be there today. Can you go on TV? And then I went on TV, and he said, okay, you're on TV from now on. And I've been on TV and in the radio and all sorts of things ever since, and mostly good, sometimes not so good. I've been sat down by my partners and say, don't ever say that again. But for the most part, I've been pretty good. But getting out of the way, Richard Branson, I'm a big fan of. He always, and this is what I do, I try to find the people that I think I like and want to work with and think that they have the ability to do it. And then I don't stand behind them over their shoulder and ask them, are you sure you're going to do it that way? And when I catch myself doing that, I realize how much detriment I'm causing to the business and to the possibility of their career with us. We have some of the people that have been with us for over 20 years. We have people that have bought into our business that are co-owners with me. We have people that believe in what they do and love what they do and wouldn't want to do this with anyone else. And we're lucky to have had that happen. So the way I did it is really got out of the way, because a lot of success, a lot of things happen in your life if you just don't force them. And I still don't know. I still can't believe I don't have the paper here. It's in my pocket that I have 18 places or that I had 26. And I'll never be able to absorb that. You know, it's just how that it worked. I'll stop talking now.
Is it my turn now?
Yes.
Well, you anticipated my question. I was going to ask about, aren't your restaurants cannibalizing one another? And evidently not. And I'll follow up with that. That when you acquire a restaurant or open a new place, how do you know it's not going to cannibalize it? I mean, you've got a lot of places downtown in a very compact area, and then you've got this outlier in Orilla. But is that part of a larger strategy, or does it just happen?
I don't have a strategy. Well, I will tell you this. There's some things you need to know, and maybe it's a secret sauce to where we're at, but we've established ourselves now. So, yes, we have 4 Fongs, but one's in Cedar Rapids, one's in Ankeny, and the one in Ankeny could be in Cedar Rapids for as far away in the world as it is. We do have one in the Drake area, but again, I live in the Drake area, and I also used to live downtown, and they are 2 different neighborhoods. And getting in your car to go to those is different. But Fong's has been something people like. But the secret that we don't talk about a lot is, well, for one thing, Wells Fargo seats 13,000 people, right? Well, there isn't one. If everyone wanted to go out to eat that night downtown, there wouldn't be enough places. There's not enough seats in restaurants, and it wouldn't be possible. So just for that, we're overdone. The baseball stadium's the same way. But then I don't know that I don't think I ever really gave the stat out correctly, but 60,000 people come to work downtown every day. Now, of course, right now that's not the same, and that's been tough. So all those businesses that are drawing down, now we're seeing all this construction of people that are living there. We have the Science Center. We have the Arts Center. The Performing Arts Center. We have the baseball. We have, now they're talking about the River Park. We have the State Capitol. We have people have to come downtown to go to court, or they have to go to get their license plates, or there's so many things. We have the Sculpture Park and everything downtown where people are drawn downtown, and it's unlike other places. Places like Jordan Creek are a great place, and it's a community, and but it's a different sort. They don't have the same exact things we have. I mean, we are the state capital. Des Moines is the state capital, and a lot of people are drawn to us. So cannibalizing, we just never have done the same thing over again, because we're always trying to find out what fits. I mean, we just put in Lucky Horse Beer and Burgers into the Drake neighborhood, and somebody told me the other day, he's like, yeah, there's no burger places around here. I'm like, yeah, that's why we did that. There's a pizza place across the street, so we didn't want to do pizza. There's a Mexican place called Fernando's, which is excellent, across the street. but we didn't want to copy. We want to create our own niche. And I would also say that we create our own niche through beer. And we draw people. One last secret thing, and we move on to the next thing, is roughly 60 to 70%, and again, not a good thing, of our business comes from out of town. People traveling, people in town for the basketball tournament or the wrestling tournament or a concert, people coming to the state government, people coming to work downtown. I mean, everyone that comes down to work downtown doesn't live downtown. I mean, we all know that, right? So we have a natural draw of people coming our way all the time. So it's hard to be cannibalizing your place when everyone's just out to do something. And so we're kind of more of I guess we kind of market ourselves as a tour, like in a tourist fashion way, like how you try to draw people to an area. That's how we've marketed our place, that we're the best beer bar, craft beer bar in the United States. So I didn't say it, magazines and newspapers have said it. People have voted for that. But we also have tons of followers and tons of great reviews that also say it. So,
Bruno, I want to say, first of all, thank you for coming today. When I saw you on the guest list for this week, I circled it in red marker on my calendar because the hospitality industry has got a place near and dear to my heart. I think I could monopolize everybody's time and pepper you with questions all afternoon, none of which would have anything to do with events occurring before March 16th of this year. But out of respect of everybody's time, I think I'll just limit it to two. You had mentioned recently opening Lucky Horse in the Drake neighborhood, and I'd like you to maybe talk about the challenges of opening a new concept during a pandemic, and also the challenges that you've faced over the course of the year in the pandemic related to human capital, regarding having to lay off employees and then rehire them after you participate in the PPP. I'm guessing you probably have some businesses that are not currently able to operate because they don't do 50% of their business in food revenue, and the challenges that those pose, and also one of the widely publicized concerns that increased unemployment benefits are a detriment to bringing employees back to work, especially those that are, I would say, in the pay range that a lot of the hospitality workers would fall into.
that was 2 questions.
I told you it was going to be.
Sounded like about 2 with like questions inside questions. No. Guy want to say that. Now I've sort of forgotten. To address how this has gone since then, it's changed. That it's changed over time. We speak specifically about Lucky Horse and how the challenges with it. We started off, we were going to do counter service at Lucky Horse, which a lot of my favorite places in town, maybe say for one, Lamy, is counter service. And they bring your food out to you after you order. And we thought that's the way we got to go, because prior to March 16th, like you say, we were really low unemployment. And I'm not a big fan of people being unemployed, but I'm a big fan of unemployment being higher, because I end up getting pretty good employees that are sometimes in transition, but they do want to do what we do and come to work. Well, they do need a job, and so that makes it handy for us. But that has completely changed to a point. I would say that unemployment with people not coming to work, we had everyone basically, you want to come work with us still, you got to go on PPP. The unemployment thing never really, we did that like really, really early on, because we were totally shut down, and PPP hadn't hit yet. So people went on unemployment, and then it was hard to coax them back in. And when you're on sand and it shifts on you and you're trying to explain yourself and it changes daily. I'm on the radio, and they talk about how the sports world's changing all the time. You go on air ready to talk about this whole thing, and right then somebody drops a press release, and now you can't go to the Iowa State game, this weekend, that kind of thing. Well, the same thing happens. The governor says, we're going to do this thing, we're going to do that thing, and it changes daily. And so that's been the hardest one, is to get a straight message to all our employees for them to understand. We're doing our best. That's what we've said that a few times. We're doing the best we possibly can with the information we have, and that's been difficult because we've had, in full disclosure, we've had a few times where people were really upset with us and that felt like we were doing them wrong and we were out to get them or we're pocketing all this PPP money. You haven't heard it from me, but the PPP money goes to employees to pay power bills, or we keep it and we have to pay interest. I guess it's a fourth thing, we can give it back if we don't use it. That's the only place it can go. I could go buy a sailboat with it, I suppose, but we're a company with shareholders, not sole proprietors. So we didn't do any of that. You could do that, but you're still gonna have to pay it back. And then you didn't know, do we have to pay it back or not? And how would we have to pay it back? So we're really worried about that because we have millions of dollars out to employees that we paid their salaries this year. And then you start hearing, okay, you're going to have to pay payroll tax on that. It's like, with what, So that's been a little bit difficult. So the shifting sands with us has been difficult. And then with the recent proclamation, I know people think that the bait shop is a bar. All we preach is beer, 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 right? But we sell a lot of food there. And a lot of our places are that way. And like Ken's is a new place in the basement of the Iowa Tap Room. But Ken's is part of the Iowa Tap Room. The Iowa Tap Room does 65% of its business in food normally. During this time, we haven't really been able to stay open past 10 because we haven't had any interest from the general public. And for the most part, people come in and eat and drink. And so really that proclamation didn't shift anything with us. If they really wanted to put everyone out of business, they could be really over the top about it. But during this time, for the last 6 months, we've way more food than liquor and beer, and so we've kind of gone under the assumption that we're just going to be open and do the spacing and the everything and the serving people food if they want to have a drink, that kind of thing, and it's been that way. And I don't know. I think I answered most of what you asked, but it hasn't been easy as far as the human capital part of it. That's probably been the worst. It's the hardest. And I'll finish talking about your question with the thing is, I'm lucky enough to I've been pretty successful and I've been smart enough. I've gotten lucky quite a few times, and I'm financially in a pretty good spot. If we had to close everything down tomorrow, I would be fine. I would figure something out. And as far as being able to live, I've actually ended up with more money. I talked about not be able to take vacations, and the only thing we're buying is groceries and gas, and barely not very much gas because I've been riding my bike every day. So I fill my tank once a month. So I don't know what I'm fine, but I go to work every day to make sure that the people that work with me have a place to go to work every day, and that's pretty much my modus operandi right now for the duration. That's what I do. That's why I do it. So,
Bruno, big fan of the Royal Mile. So, I have two, I think, brief questions. One, do you have a favorite restaurant that's in your group? And two, when you develop a new concept, how long does it take time-wise in a normal environment from concept through development into opening the store?
I just describe. I'm from Carroll, Iowa, and if you don't know Carroll, Iowa, I thought that the world was all full of Catholic, white, German, and Irish people. I didn't know. I hear John Kennedy, President Kennedy, was a papist, and it's a terrible thing. He was a Catholic, and I'm like, what? That can't. No one can't like the Catholics. We're all. I thought mostly all of us were Catholic. And I will tell you, one side little note on that is I feel like that is my biggest blind spot, my biggest problem with the world as it changes and as we move forward, is that I don't want to make I don't want to make it too light, but I want to make it kind of serious. That I grew up white, male, Iowa, Middle America. My perspective is horrible. At least females in the state have a perspective of second class or other, or having that thing. I've never experienced that, so sometimes it's hard to be empathetic. And but as we learn these days, that's something to work on, and so that's been really handy. But to kind of deal with the world that we're in, and I know that wasn't any one of your questions, but I like to say that out loud because that's a kind of an important thing at the time we're at right now. But I will also say that so the part about being Catholic is that a lot of people had 12, 16 kids, and I always think about it as that. I suppose those folks had a favorite. I've Royal Mile is my first one, and so it's the one I think about a lot, but it's also the one that I always thought I would never want to sell, and I'm not saying it's for sale today, but I'm also saying that I know I can't take it with me. I like them for different reasons, kind of like kids too. There's different parts of them, and I put a lot of different parts of me into them. There's pieces and things of it that I like. There's actually pieces and parts of every place that we have in my home. I have totems of every place that we've ever done. Something that came, like a brick or something from the place that, as I was doing it, there's a work bell or an alarm bell out of the Iowa tap room I have at my house, and there's a stack of stuff. I haven't really done anything. The only thing I have is the Royal Mile. No one will ever know this, at least not in our lifetimes, is that it had a tin ceiling, and it's even taller ceilings. And I ripped out 4 sets of tin, what is that, 8 foot wide by 2 foot tall, and I have them. I had Don Short, one of my business partners at Weston Salvage, frame it and put it up on my wall, so I have that in my home, and that's the very first one I ever did. So I don't really have a favorite per se. I really like I will say that as we do it, we get better at what we do. I will tell you that the Lucky Horse is the state of art of what I've ever done. It's thought through. It's very refined and detailed down to what we want it to be right now. If you ask me what my favorite thing on the menu is, I will tell you the whole thing. The whole menu it's great. So that's the new one. That's my focus. But if you go to Ken's in the basement of the Iowa Tap Room, that place is spectacular. Super cool. And Rita's, if you've driven past it or tried to get in, it's sometimes in a 2-hour wait during this time, which is fabulous. It's gone well. Very nice. And so I like all of them. And to answer the question of how do we come up with them, we travel a lot. We went to England, to Great Britain, because we went into Scotland, and the Royal Mile is named after one of the street in the middle of the High Street, which is also known as the Royal Mile, between the 2 castles in Edinburgh, which I would say is, I've been to places. I've been to Beijing and Moscow and St. Petersburg and Stockholm and London and Dubuque, and I think it's one of the neatest towns in all the world. I think it's just spectacular. The last time we visited, we were there for the Fringe Festival, which is just amazing. We completely stumbled into it. What a cool event. Go there if you can. So we traveled. We went to Germany for the Hessen House. We went to Milwaukee and the surrounding areas for the High Life. So we get out of the travel. We travel ourselves. I have 23,000 pictures in my phone and around the cloud, and I would tell you that a quarter of them are of breweries or businesses or ideas or menus or whatever. And so we get them, and I would tell you from the start of an idea, once we sober up and we heads get clear, we come up with ideas and put it together. I would say It's about a year. Actually, it could be less. Depends on how we do it. So we've been lucky. We get further and further down the line. We can make better and better deals. The Lucky Horse, we got a white box, which is basically means that everything except for what we want to put in it. And so they did a lot of that work on the front end. So took possession of that in November. We plan to open up in March. We plan to open up right around St. Patrick's because we want to get ahead of the relays. So, from thought and where you want to go, I started talking. I keep every email I've ever had too, because I used to work in the insurance industry, and you live in fear of not keeping track of everything you do, and you got to write it all down. And so I still do that, and now I can look back to those emails, except for when Yahoo lost everything before 2007, which was very disappointing. But I'm on Yahoo, but my partner's on AOL, and he only recently figured out how to get the "You Got Mail" thing taken off of his. So I keep track of it, and so I can look back and I can tell you my first emails for the Lucky Horse were July, and we opened up in July. So it took a year, but because of COVID, maybe more like 9 months. But again, I can talk forever, and I was really worried about having to talk to everyone, and it's really silly. I just probably get a little bit more rambly and boring as I talk, though. So that's all I got. I will say that I do have a buy one get one for Lucky Horse, and I'd like to hand them out to you before you leave. And that I would like to tell you, I don't know if anyone believes me when I say that we're a pretty safe place to visit. We're definitely safe to stop by and pick up and go, and we're extremely safe if we deliver to you, which we do through Fong's, a few of them, and Truman's, or third-party delivery if you want. But I feel like we're pretty safe, and I feel like we're not as bad as the world seems. But we also are only as good as the worst player in our industry. So that's kind of what we have to bear too. So I just want to say thank you for letting me talk to you. I think this is a pretty. I've always wondered what this is all about and all the clubs, but this is great, and I'm glad you guys had me speak here today. Thank you so much.
There's Jeff here, but thank you, Jeff. I guess that's your name, for spending your lunchtime with us today and your very, very well planned, thought out, and scripted discussion here. No. And we are donating the book Kids Cooking to the Downtown School Library in your honor, and I understand you've signed it and put a few words of encouragement in there. Thank you all for being with us again here today in person or watching live streaming or later on YouTube. For those of you watching on YouTube, there are 27 of us here today in the room. So if you're not attending because you think we are at full capacity, we are not. So we can easily more than double what we have in here, and I'd like to see that. That is, we are safely distanced, and if we'd like you to consider RSVPing to attend a future meeting, and that is if you're comfortable with it. If you're not, please continue to watch on YouTube. And also, we have moved our RSVPs from Monday to Tuesday, so hopefully that can give you a little more notice on what your schedule is for the week, and hopefully give you a better opportunity to join us here. So again, you can sign up on the email link that goes out on Friday or in Tuesday's email e-bulletin. Upcoming speakers. Next week, September 10th, we have John Sorensen, President, Iowa Bankers Association. September 17th, our own Mark Isles and Bob Christensen will be talking about the funeral business in 2020. That's got to be a recession-proof business. And on September 24th, Secretary of State Paul Pate. I'm sure he has nothing going on this time of year or this year with maybe a few elections coming up. Thank you again for being with us today and for being part of your Rotary Club of Des Moines. And thanks to you that are on live stream or will be watching us later. Have a happy and safe Labor Day weekend, long weekend. And remember always to leave something behind every day, no matter how big or small. With that, we are adjourned.